Okay. And this is Jen.
Hi, Jane Bearbauer.
Jen?
Jane.
Yes.
Jane.
And maybe the rest of you should introduce. You were here. Go ahead, everybody say their name. Start with you, Angela.
I'm Angela.
Maddie.
David. Randy. Greg.
Monica.
Jane.
Maria.
Maddie, do you have the? I saw on Facebook some advertisement. Interior organizing by Maddie. Is that you?
Yes.
Okay.
He's organizing. He does the Facebook thing. So I want to say, I'm not responsible for what he puts under my business.
So, I mean, I saw this thing. It said organizing, and it was at the same time that I got this advertisement for a lecture. I have different organizations I belong to and whatnot. This is an organization for like aging. Not that I'm aging, but and it was a lecture about decluttering.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, are they connected? You do decluttering too.
I did it in Sarasota because the realtors in the office would always ask me when they had a house that needed to go on the market. So I would go and say, this is what we do, this is what we do. And I haven't really done except for my old customers in Sarasota that I'm still realtor for. I prefer to do the organizing. I love that.
Yeah.
These two
For my
together,
friends, I
Rabbi,
do it for free.
these two
So
together,
if
you
anybody-
can't
you work
believe
together?
my life to live in a house with these two organizers.
With these
I
Holy
drink
moly.
a cup of coffee,
No,
I put it on the table, it's gone.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wanted to.
We are definitely. I
need your
mean,
number.
my wife and I are definitely in the decluttering phase of life,
Absolutely.
and
Oh.
I had Haven come pick up some old furniture today. I gave away a computer table, and as it's going out the door, Rebecca says, "You remember when you got that?" I said, "I don't remember." She said, "Well, just I was pregnant with Joel, our son. He's 44, by the way." And that's how long that computer. Now, it's a computer table or a computer holder, but in those days, computers, you wouldn't remember this, you're too young, but the computers
They were
were
big.
big,
Oh,
a
yeah.
box thing,
Yeah.
and you had to wheel it around, and the keyboard went in here, and the drive was over
And the
here, and all
modem.
this. And the computer has been gone for 40 years, 41 years.
Yes.
The table was still using, and said, well, now it's for sale at Haven Attic, so.
I was lecturing the two of them today. I'm looking, and I've got a lot of things in bins that haven't been used that these two collect. And I was looking at a harp in one of them, and I said, this harp hasn't been played for 6 months. Nobody takes it out. Why is it sitting there? Oh, but I love a harp. I said, no, you don't really love it. I haven't seen you
I'm
pick
like-
it up and do
I'm like,
anything on
King
it.
David played a harp.
It's David.
Yeah.
That's
But you're not
right. There you go. One more.
No, that's
Okay. No, I'm not. It doesn't work perfectly because I want to be able to write on the screen, but that way I don't remember how to get rid of them. This anyway, it's too bad. I'll write on it the best I can. Mostly you'll just have to listen to me. All right, Steve is there. Steve is at another one who comes to everything online is Steve up there, you know. Yeah, I was talking about you, Steve. All right. Okay, everybody, we're going to talk about Jewish holidays today. So I put this circle of Jewish holidays on the screen, and I might write on it, I might not, but I want to sort of we'll have a few classes dedicated to specific holidays. For example, we're going to have one class dedicated to Passover, and where we're going to talk about Passover. And we'll probably have one class on the holidays. Usually we do. And we will have one class on Shabbat. And for sure, Shabbat, the Sabbath, is the most important Jewish holiday. It comes every week. But I am not going to talk about Shabbat here because we're going to talk about the calendar, the annual calendar of holidays. And I'm going to point out some things about this annual calendar of holidays that you might find interesting. And probably you will hear about some holidays that you maybe don't know a lot about. And if you have questions, you can ask me more about those holidays. But here is the wheel. And I want to say a little bit about the holidays. We use the lunar calendar, okay? So our calendar is based on the moon, not on like the secular calendar is based on the solar calendar. The lunar calendar, why, what about the lunar calendar that caused Islam and Judaism to both use the lunar calendar? Probably had to do with it was a lot more easier to observe visually observe the regular cycles of the moon than it would be the sun. However, using a lunar calendar, just like a solar calendar, means that there has to be some adjustments. And in the solar calendar, we add a day every 4 years. But on a lunar calendar, we add an entire month. And it's not exactly every 4 years. It's 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. It's kind of an odd calendar, but the calendar is all worked out. Don't worry, we know what month it is. We know what year it is. But our calendar does not mesh. The whole point of this is to tell you that our calendar does not mesh exactly every year with the solar calendar. So if you know that last year on September 22nd, we had Rosh Hashanah, does not mean that Rosh Hashanah will be on September 22nd the next year. It will always happen in the middle of the lunar calendar of Tishrei, but that will not always be the same day on the solar calendar. This is one of the things that mixes a lot of people up because they know how the solar calendar works. And then they say, well, I know that last year the Jewish holidays were in the beginning of September. The Rosh Hashanah was in the beginning. Well, that doesn't mean it's going to be in the beginning of September this next year. It might be later. It might be earlier. It varies. That's number one, the first thing I want to tell you. But it's all the Jewish holidays are always going to be the same day on the lunar calendar.
Is that on the full moon day?
Most, but not all Jewish holidays are on the full moon, but that's not when the month starts.
No, it starts with
the month starts at the new moon. You knew enough about the moon to know that.
Oh,
and the month starts at the new moon, which is a new moon is when the moon is dark, when there's the absence of the moon. And it's interesting to me, I always like to this is why I'm a rabbi, I guess, because I like to say, well, what's the meaning of this? We always start our holidays when there's a lot of light. It makes sense to start a holiday when there's the most light at night. And then the month goes and it gets darker and darker. And then the light comes back and it could be another holiday. Yeah, that's a sort of a poetic interpretation. Or it could just be that was the easiest time for them to know when to have the holidays. But in any event, so Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year, this holiday that's right here. But I just take a different color.
So the Hebrew calendar is not based on the moon and solar? It's not based at all on the solar?
No. We just forget the sun.
I didn't know.
No, it's just based on the lunar calendar. And what you see in the blue here are the names of the Hebrew months. Tishrei, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet, Shvat, Adar. Those are the names of the Hebrew months. In the inner circle, you see more or less they align more or less with the months in the solar calendar. But we only use the lunar calendar. Rosh Hashanah is the Jewish New Year. Rosh means head, Shana means year. And we just had Rosh Hashanah. And it's the new year. We're in the year 5786. 5786, 5,786. And a lot of people will ask me, 5,786, when did you start counting? We started counting at 0. And I wasn't around then, so I don't know what happened that year. But in very traditional sources, they will tell you, fundamentalist Jewish sources, they'll tell you that that's when the year of the world was created. Mm-hmm. We know the world was, even the rabbis in the Middle Ages knew the world was more than 5,700 years old. But so we don't really know what that's from. But a traditional rabbi would tell you that's how long, from the beginning of the world. In any event, Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, is not like the secular New Year. Secular New Year, New Year's Day, that's December 31st and January 1st, is about having a party, having a celebration, maybe imbibing a little bit. Rosh Hashanah is really part of a series of holidays that are about teshuvah, or turning, or making amends. It's about our starting the year off with a clean slate. Organizing, kind of like organizing. Kind of like saying, that's how we start the year, not by going out and getting drunk, but by getting everything in order and clearing our slate. It should appeal to you.
It does.
By clearing the slate and saying, we are going to start the year clean. So on Rosh Hashanah, that's the focus, even though we're happy, of course, to be starting another year. And we have, traditionally, we eat sweet foods. Apples dipped in honey is the traditional food. The focus of the holiday when we come to service is about being involved in this idea of saying, I'm ready to put the past behind me. I'm ready to make amends with my neighbors. And Jews have a tradition. Some Jews have a tradition of going to everybody and saying, I apologize for anything I've done in the past year to offend you. And the person who they say that to, that person has an obligation of saying, I forgive you. Let's start over. Not only is it the beginning of a season of making amends between people and apologizing to people, but also beginning to turn our thoughts heavenward and saying, I'm going to make amends, for any misdeeds, anything that I have done, getting things, and the phrase in English, getting things right with God, I've always thought that, even though it's not really a Jewish phrase, it is a phrase that applies to Rosh Hashanah, saying,
talking about the holidays.
This is a time when I'm going to now make amends. So Rosh Hashanah begins this time, but this is such a big task. It doesn't just happen on Rosh Hashanah. It actually takes a period of time. It actually takes really an entire month, but at least 10 days, because following Rosh Hashanah comes Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur means Day of Atonement. And that is kind of like the the pinnacle of this process of starting the year fresh, of saying we're going to take one particular day and devote that day to atonement. Some have said it's better to say, instead of atonement, at-one-ment, because it's really feeling that we have a new slate. And they, by the way, on Rosh Hashanah, one of the rituals that's a very beloved ritual is the ritual we call tashlich, where we go to a body of water and we take bread, which symbolizes all the things we've done wrong in the year, and we throw that into the water for the fish to eat. And it's like physically throwing out. I've always thought of it very cathartic, therapeutic in a way, to be able to say, I'm going to physically throw last year away. My grandfather used to have a phrase. I'm sure a lot of people have heard this phrase. My grandfather used to say, it's time to turn the page, and that's what Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are. Time to turn the page. Let's get on with the new year.
When was Yom Kippur this year?
Yom Kippur was October 2nd. Yeah, 1st and 2nd, I think it was when it was this year. And it has more to it also than this, because actually Yom Kippur, and I tried to say this in the sermon this year, Yom Kippur, but anyway, Yom Kippur also is about recognizing that we don't live forever, and that life is finite. It's a time for us to take account and to say, okay, I better make things right in this world as much as I can. I'm not going to be around forever. So that's the reason we don't eat. It's the reason we don't eat on that day. It's the reason some people wear white because their burial shrouds are white, and that's the reason we any other prohibitions from that day are about saying we're kind of imitating, preparing for our non-existence, for our death. That's Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. It's very different from a secular New Year. Those holidays actually continue with Sukkot. If you were here just a few weeks ago, you saw that we had Sukkot and Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. Sukkot is the holiday where we go outside, we build a little hut outside, and we live in the little hut. The hut is a remembrance of what the dwelling places that the Israelites lived in when they were on their march through the desert. And you can say, gee, that's weird. That's kind of strange that after Yom Kippur, just a few days later, we're already remembering that march through the desert, that Exodus. It actually fits very well. First of all, because it's also the beginning of, if you know, September, October. In most places, it's the beginning of fall. The weather is changing. On Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we're inside a lot. The meals are inside. We're inside services a lot. Here comes Sukkot. We go outside and we build this little hut. But also, it fits because it is another reminder of the journey, the human journey, which is symbolized by the Exodus from Egypt. The Exodus from Egypt, which is really the master's, I think I have a class on this, but I'm not sure. The master story of Judaism. You want to know what every religious faith has a master story. The master story of Judaism is the Exodus from Egypt. And of course, you can think of it as a historical event. But you can also think of the Exodus from Egypt in terms of a kind of life experience. That is to say, everybody goes on this journey in the desert. And so here, after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we take ourselves back to that journey in the desert where the Israelites became a people, recognized that there was divine law, matured themselves as a community. And we build these little huts and we come together outside in these little huts, which are usually fairly small. And they bring us together as a community. If you were at our Scotch and Savories event, you know that it was joyful. We came together in the sukkah and we did those things, Scotch and Savories, you know, and it was fun, and a few magic tricks. But anyway, it was fun. And and that holiday ends with this Shmini Atzeret, which is just a little the end of Sukkot, and Simchat Torah, which is the day, which means the joy of the Torah. It's the day we finish the Torah reading cycle and begin the Torah reading cycle. So it's a party. It's a party. Note that Sukkot in the high holidays are 6 months apart from Passover. Okay. Our year is anchored by 2 major holidays, Passover and Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. They are like the yin and the yang of the Jewish year. If there were yin and yang, this line would be wavy. But anyway, they are and that's me. I just bring in all these other religious traditions. You know? How do I mean that? Passover is mostly celebrated at home. Passover is a home holiday. We sit around the dining room table and we observe. The most important part of Passover is the Seder, which takes place with friends and family at home. And of course, here in the synagogue, because this is our families here in the synagogue. But I mean, you know, we but generally at home. Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah are in the synagogue. On Passover, we remember the Exodus from Egypt, but we also remember the Exodus from Egypt on Sukkot. Again, that's because it's our master story. We never let more than 6 months go by before we begin thinking about our master story. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Passover parallel each other, and there's a lot more I could, you know. On Yom Kippur we don't eat. On Passover, all we do is eat. I mean, you know, like, so, I mean, there's, you know, it's just, we could go on and on with these 2 anchors of the year. But rather than talk about Passover now, I'm going to move on to the next Jewish holiday, which we have a whole month with no Jewish holidays, thank God. No, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. A whole month with no Jewish holidays. To the next Jewish holiday, which is here in the Jewish month of Kislev, November, December, and it is Hanukkah. Now, Hanukkah is not the Jewish Christmas, okay? Hanukkah is not even mentioned in the Bible, okay? It is a post-biblical holiday. And its origins are intentionally murky, okay? So I don't want to, you know, we can talk more about Hanukkah, but it on the surface, or the story we say to kids, it's a holiday about, the word Hanukkah means dedication, to dedicate something. And it's a holiday about the rededication or the dedication of the worship space, the temple in Jerusalem, after it had been retaken by the Maccabees. Now that story itself is a really complicated story. It is such a complicated story that the entire book of Maccabees was not preserved in the Jewish Bible. Some of it was, but most of it we know from other faiths that preserve the story. And that's because it was a very complicated time for the Jewish community. It was not, it was anything but a united Jewish community. Nevertheless, Hanukkah, which comes on the 25th day of the month of Kislev, happens in the very darkest time of the year. There are other holidays from other faiths that happen on the 25th day of the month, of the darkest month of the year. And that's not an accident either, by the way. I think all of these holidays harken back to human beings' most primitive roots, our most primitive times of really wondering, is the sun going to come back? This night is so long. And if the sun doesn't come back, we got real problems. And picking picking a night that is really dark for a long time and lighting lights is a really natural sort of human reaction. What other way could I get to encourage the sun to come back on by making sure I light multiple lights? So next time you see somebody advertising the Festival of Lights, whether it be Christmas or Jewish or whatever, or Buddhists also have a holiday at this time of the year, you'll see, you can recognize the Festival of Lights. Of course, it's the dark time of the year. The story of Hanukkah, though, is a story of when we talk about it in terms of rededication, it's a story about Jews being able to have a worship space. Hanukkah is 8 days long. That's because when the Maccabees did dedicate the temple, they had missed Sukkot, which is 8 days long. Sukkot, remember, that's a holiday that came back here. And they missed Sukkot, so they made Hanukkah, and they made it 8 days long so that they could now celebrate Sukkot, and they lit lights, lit menorah lights. The rabbis preserve in the Talmud a big disagreement on how the lights were going to be lit. One rabbi said you should start out with 8 and you go to 1, and the other one said you should start with 1 and go to 8. They had a big fight about it, and so one of them won. I don't know which one. No, I do know which one. We start with 1 and we go to 8. But the argument was so interesting to me, and this is true about so much of our Jewish tradition, is we recognize that this argument between two great rabbis, or two great schools of rabbinic thought, the argument was preserved. You would think that we would have decided on one thing and just said, okay, that's what we're going to do it. No, and our tradition preserves both sides of the argument. Yes, there's a clear winner, but the idea is it's okay. We didn't always agree. We didn't always come up with the same answer. But in the end, we made peace and we figured out how to go forward under one system. But we didn't throw away the argument, the good argument that was made by the loser. It's a lot like Supreme Court decision, in the Supreme Court. I mean, they don't throw away the losing, right? Yeah. So, and you can, and you learn a lot from the dissenting opinions. All right.
Someone said, thank God we don't use the Christmas tree, because the discussion, do you say the bracha before you do it? Yeah, take it in the house.
Absolutely, I agree with it. Yeah, that's I've heard that before. Yeah. Well, talking about trees, the very next holiday is Tu B'Shvat. That happens in January, February, somewhere around there. That's Tu B'Shvat is a very minor holiday as well. No religious services for Tu B'Shvat, but it is the new year for trees. And you're going to say to me, why do I need a new year for trees? And I'm going to say to you, why not? What's wrong with another new year? In fact, the Talmud preserves for us the idea that there were 4 new years in every year. And, the truth is, if you begin to think about it, those of you who have ever been around accounting know that we have a fiscal new year, right? And we have a calendar new year, and we might have and we have an academic new year. We have a lot of new years. So it's not so weird. It's really, okay. But what is interesting is that why do we have a new year for trees? Well, again, we're in winter time. And we are kind of it's hard to think about this in Florida. I mean, our tradition, it really fits if you live in Poland. But we live in Florida, and kind of hoping that the frost this fall, goes away, and we can begin planting, and we want to, do something for these trees, because if they don't come back, we got big problems on our hands. So we have this holiday, Tu B'Shvat, and what do we do on Tu B'Shvat? We plant. We plant. We remind ourselves of nature. It's a small holiday, usually observed by going outside with the kids and planting trees. A lot of these plants and trees you see around the synagogue have been planted with our Sunday school kids and our religious school kids, and that we did and planted on Tu B'Shvat. And I just wish that we tagged each one, planted on Tu B'Shvat, 1967.
Yeah.
But we never remember to do that. Well, then we come to the next holiday, and that is here, and that's Purim. That's in the Hebrew month of Adar, February, March, usually March, I think, but the holiday of Purim. The holiday of Purim also is post-biblical, but the book that we read on Purim is in the Hebrew Bible. It's the book of Esther. And that's all we do on Purim. We read the book. That's the only thing we do. Only do two things to celebrate Purim. Well, we read the book of Esther, and we have a party, and we dress in costumes, and we drink alcohol, and we eat hamantashen, which is translated as Haman's. Hamantashen means Haman's ears. Probably not a Jewish custom, by the way, but probably picked up in Haman's ears. Okay, Haman's Tashin is pocket. Haman's pocket, but I think originally it was Haman's ears. But anyway, Haman's pocket. Yeah, and I think I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think in Germany or in there's a pastry that a Tashin pastry is there. I don't know. It could be. Anyway. Whatever. I think was a pastry like that, and it got associated with this holiday. But the book of Esther, is a book that's in the Hebrew Bible, a small book in the Hebrew Bible, often taken as a parody. Okay, now there's a lot more I could say about it, and we'll say about it when Purim comes, but the rabbis saw in this book of Esther not only a story of victory, but also a story of a woman who was a hero, of a time when everything seemed upside down. Of course, this is the time of the year when we're having a party. So everything seems upside down, and that's why we wear costumes. Everything's upside down. We change ourselves. Everything's upside down. When there is, and also it's a story that if you read it with a certain kind of, idea in it, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, it's about a king who says to his wife, I want you to come to the party naked. And she says no. And he says, okay, well, then I'm going to divorce you. And then he goes out and interviews, quote unquote, 5,000 virgins.
Sounds like Kanye.
And
Sounds like Kanye.
Kanye. Well, that's right. Okay, and he goes out and does that, and yeah, I mean, there's a story. So, I mean, so there is this innuendo, and the king has to raise his staff. I mean, there's this kind of innuendo in this Purim story that lends itself to a kind of anyway, a wild party. Bacchanalian. The word was in my mind, but it just didn't. Bacchanalian party. By the way, I mean, it's not for nothing that this happens around the same time as Mardi.
Oh, wow.
Again, it's the end of winter. If you're a farmer and you are seeing the frost go, you're now ready to have a party because you've got to go back to work. You have a big party, and now the work is gonna start. So there is this idea. We read the book of Esther, and it's a big party, and that's Purim.
They were gonna kill us. They didn't.
They didn't. We're gonna have a party. Right. We're gonna have a party. Then after that, in March, April comes Passover. I mentioned a little bit about Passover, and I said we'll have a whole class on Passover. Passover is full of all kinds of symbolism, theology, and ideas. It is very much a springtime holiday. Lots of the symbols of Passover have to do with spring, with renewal. This is, again, sort of universal in other faiths as well. But Passover has this added element in it of eating unleavened bread and of cleaning out. It's another cleaning out. So if on Rosh Hashanah we're cleaning out our spirits, our spiritual thing, on Passover we actually clean our house and have to go through our whole house and remove all the leavened bread, anything leavened. And so there's a physical cleaning in Passover. One half of the year is got the spiritual cleaning. One half of the year.
Why is leaven bad?
Well, that's a long story, which I'll cover on Passover. But leaven is not bad, but it's a symbol. It becomes a symbol of getting rid of the leavening from last year, which is all the bad stuff from last year, and then going for a week without any leavened bread, eating unleavened bread, and then bringing the leaven back in ancient times, but even among modern Bedouins in the desert, they use starter dough to make what kind of bread is that? Sourdough bread. And at that time of the year, Bedouins were not Jewish, but I mean, they have this idea of throwing away the old starter dough, letting some time pass, and beginning a new batch, taking a week to begin a new batch of starter dough. So it's kind of like we're gonna restart this thing and make sure everything is restarted nice and clean. For people who are clean freaks, this works really good. Yeah, but that's Passover. Passover is the most widely observed Jewish holiday, and it's a holiday that I love. It's not the easiest holiday in the world, but it's a holiday that I love. Lots and lots of beautiful traditions and symbolisms with Passover. Between Passover and this holiday of Shavuot, I'm skipping right here, we have 7 weeks. 7 weeks. This holiday of Shavuot means weeks. 7 weeks of 7 days, 49 days. Shavuot is the holiday that marks, on Passover, the Jews left Egypt. Shavuot marks the day the Jews arrived at Mount Sinai, or the day the Torah was given. Maybe it's the day they had arrived a few days earlier, but it was the day the Torah was given. 7 weeks or 7 days. So that was a period of time. It was 50 days that we call the counting of the Omer. And during those 50 days, we actually in our services count. This is day 1, this is day 2, this is day 3, this is day 4 until we get to 50. And during that 50 days, we have a few little holidays that are represented right here. One is Israel's Independence Day, which is the day that Israel declared its independence in 1949. Just before Israel's Independence Day is Yom HaZikaron, which is Israel's Memorial Day for soldiers who were fallen in battle, just like American Memorial Day. And there's also this holiday of Lag BaOmer, the 33rd day of counting the Omer. And the Lag BaOmer is a kind of picnic festival where they build where we build bonfires and we go outside. There's some historical events related to it, but it's an outdoor experience of bonfires, picnics, being outside. These 3 holidays come in succession of one another, happen in this April-May period of time, and happen before the holiday of Shavuot. And that leaves 1 day left. And that day is right here, Tisha B'Av, in the bottom of your calendar, the month of Av, July or August. It sort of stands alone. Tisha B'Av is the saddest day of the Jewish calendar because it is the day that is assigned to all the tragedies, mostly to the destruction of the first temple and the destruction of the second temple, but lots of other tragedies as well throughout Jewish history were assigned to this day of Tisha B'Av. And we read the book of Lamentations, the sad book of the Bible, about the destruction of Jerusalem. And that holiday stands sort of alone, and it's a fast day and it's a sad day. But I think there's a great wisdom in the Jewish calendar of concentrating our mourning into 1 day. There is an exception to that occurs here. It's not even on your calendar, but it's a big one. And it's Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Memorial Day. Why is Yom HaShoah not wrapped into Tisha B'Av? It's a very long story. But for those people who survived the Holocaust, they felt that the Holocaust was such a unique event that it needed its own holiday on the Jewish calendar. And so it occurs during this time of the Omer and during that time when it has Yom HaShoah. Will Yom HaShoah in 100 years be melded into Tisha B'Av? Who knows what the future will be. But it is true that 7 million Jews died, or 6 million Jews died. 7 million people died, 6 million Jews died. And so it is a unique experience in the Jewish calendar. But nevertheless, Tisha B'Av, the 9th, which means the 9th day of the Hebrew month of Av, is this day of mourning. So now there you have it.
So
you have the cycle of the Jewish year.
The calendar here shows Yom HaShoah
All right.
the same month as Passover.
Who's got a question?
Yes.
A question?
Yes.
Better
Sorry, can you hear
unmute.
me? Can
I can't hear you.
sorry, it's the laptop.
Oh wait,
The microphone. I'll save it for later.
Us.
is it us?
Oh, I don't know. She's not muted on.
You gonna type it? Type your question into the chat?
Muted.
She's
Oh, you're
muted
muted.
now.
She wasn't before.
Yeah,
You're muted now. Right on mute.
she wasn't before. Yeah, she wasn't before.
The calendar doesn't work.
No.
I still can't hear you, Ricky.
Yeah.
Can you type it in the chat?
Yes.
While she's typing, what's the missing, the occasional every 6 years month called, and are there any?
It's called the DAR 2. They didn't come up with a new name for it. They're not that creative. They just came up, okay, the book shows Yom HaShoah is the same month as Passover. Yes, that's true. It is the same month as Passover.
Oh, yeah, it's right there under Pesach.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
there under
Oh,
Pesach.
yeah.
I put it in the wrong place. That's what it is. You're right.
Can you imagine
Uh-huh.
if your birthday was on a Dar too? What are you gonna do?
You end up being very young. Some people even have their birthdays in the leap year. It only doesn't really cause a, no, I don't. It doesn't really cause a huge issue, but it does for anniversaries of deaths. It could happen. Yeah.
What is the other Holocaust Day? It's like International Holocaust.
International Holocaust Remembrance
How's
Day
it
was
different from-
a UN holiday. Yeah. So this is the thing is that, you know, everybody wants to get in on the action a little bit. I mean, you know, Yom HaShoah, really, even in the Jewish community, Yom HaShoah was, the way it works is you have Yom HaShoah, then Yom HaZikaron, then Yom HaAtzmaut. So you go from it's there's like this quick succession, talking about the Holocaust, and then almost immediately talking about the soldiers who were lost in the war, and then right after that talking about Independence Day, you know, and then after that this outdoor picnic festival. So it's kind of got this kind of flow to it, you know, of holidays that happen in Israel. If you're ever in Israel and you're there on Lag BaOmer, I don't know if you ever had that experience. It's absolutely, everybody is burning a bonfire, and you know, every street corner people are roasting hot dogs and marshmallows and stealing wood from, you know, construction sites. It's not a lot of wood in Israel. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Lag BaOmer is named after the day. Tu B'Shvat is named after the day. Yeah, we have it. So the Tisha is the Hebrew word for the nine. Two is the Hebrew word for 15. Not the Hebrew word for 15. It's the number 15 written in Hebrew letters. Spells the word two, Tet and Vav. Lag BaOmer is, the Lamed is 30 and Gimel is 3. So 33rd day of the month of Omer. We had a lot of non-creative people, and you know, they couldn't really think of a good name for the holiday. They just said, call it the name on the calendar, and then it'll be good. And then people will know. Oh, that's a good 4th of July. We do that.
Yeah.
We say 4th of July. 4th of July. That's a good example. Yeah, and Tisha B'Av, I would say, is the day of mourning.
Now, if we were having a drush, I would say something about October 7th, perhaps being moved to a new day.
Yeah,
You know what
so
I'm
this
saying?
is, so that's the issue. I mean, that is the issue. I mean, that's a good example, actually. So, 2 years ago on October 7th was this horrible attack in Israel. But that day in Israel, it was Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. So But in the secular world, in Israel too, we call that day October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
But on the Jewish calendar, it happened on a Jewish holiday. So there is this, like, so many of my colleagues did observances in their synagogues on October 7th. And I mean, we did a little something, I mentioned services or something here or whatever, but really it was on the day, on the Jewish calendar.
Right.
It was on Shmini Atzeret Simchat Torah. That's when it really was. So this is the world. I mean, it's the conundrum, and the holiday has gotten to be known as October 7th. I don't know that there's going to be any change in this for a generation, 2 or 3 generations. With Yom HaShoah, of course, it's been a while. It's been 70 years now, but that one may never move. But the idea of saying we're going to concentrate our mourning to one day of year, I think was kind of wise idea, because there are people who otherwise would live in a constant state of mourning all the time.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're going to have a class on Jewish death practices. We're going to have one of these classes on death and mourning. And that is why we observe the yahrzeit, or the anniversary of a person's death, is to sort of say, okay, we're going to just limit our mourning to a few days a year and try to put our sad feelings there rather than live in a constant state of sadness and grief. There's some psychological stuff going on there with that. Any other questions? Anybody?
The years that events happen relevant. So, for instance, Hanukkah, where was that in the 5,000 years?
Good question.
And then
Are the years relevant?
the year that it happened. I mean,
Yes, of course the years are relevant. Of course the years are relevant because, it's history. And we Westerners think of history as linear. But our Jewish tradition didn't think of history necessarily as linear, being one event after another. They thought of this calendar of going round and round, and of saying once a year, we're going to mark this event that happened, and we're actually going to live in that event. We're going to experience what it was like to dedicate the temple again. We're going to feel that we're dedicating the temple. That it didn't happen, 2,500 years ago in Jerusalem, that it was us who were there. So, yeah, the year is relevant if you think of it in terms of a Western calendar. But if you think of it in terms of a religious calendar, the year is not relevant because we are every year going back to that event and being in that event. No, I think it's really always that. I wrote on the screen there, heapcow.com, because the question always comes to me, how do I know when how do I know when the holidays are going to be observed? Well, first of all, you can look on a calendar, and there are a million calendars. And when I was a boy, everybody used to get a Jewish calendar, and the synagogue handed out calendars and whatnot. But now we have the internet.
Yeah.
The website that I use is called heapcal.com, HEBCAL.com, made by not one of our congregants in Gainesville, but made by a congregant in one of my colleagues' congregations. It's an amazing website where he has all the Jewish holidays from forever, ever listed. And you can look up the day, but you can also find the Torah reading for that day. You can click on the Torah reading. You can listen to the Torah reading on that day. You can So it's an amazing resource, but you really will not necessarily, your English calendar will not, it might have Rosh Hashanah on it, and it might have Passover on it, but it won't have all these other Jewish holidays. So that's how that's a resource that you can use to say, okay, I want to know, when is Hanukkah going to begin?
So I have,
The Jewish holiday.
Is today a Jewish holiday?
.com.
There's Randy found a website called istodayajewishholiday.com. And I explained to Randy, that's very important if you live in New York City, because you don't have, if any of you have ever lived in Manhattan, know that you can only park on a certain side of the street on certain days. However, if it's a Jewish holiday, you don't have to switch to the other side of the street.
really?
Yeah,
Cool.
so it's today a
Seriously?
Jewish holiday. Parking rules are suspended. I mean, they're also suspended for Christian
Everybody.
holidays,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Muslim
yeah,
holidays,
yeah.
and Buddhist holidays, but
Crazy.
this website is today a Jewish holiday is really important if you have a car parked on the street in Brooklyn, New York. Because otherwise you have to go down and move your car.
So, okay, so I have a question. So like I was born December 6th,
Mhm.
1955. So what day in the Jewish calendar, how would I find out what day?
But if you go to this website, heapcow.com, and you put in December 5th, 1955, it will tell you what that date was in the Jewish calendar. So you might find out that you're only 50 years old.
I know,
mean,
right?
you know, then,
Yeah, what was your birthday? You can put it right now.
he's doing it right now.
December
He's
6th, 1955.
so you might have found out you were born on Hanukkah.
There's a chance I was born Adar too, then I would be like 2 years older.
That's right. There's a chance. There's a chance.
Oh, wow.
No, you can find out your Hebrew birthday, and there are many people who for our grandchildren, we always celebrate their Hebrew birthday and their English birthday. That way they get a present on their Hebrew birthday.
26. It's the 5716.
What?
So it was
Okay,
during
so-
Hanukkah.
So it was on the second day of Hanukkah.
Hold it.
You were born on the second.
Can you say it again, please?
It's the KISAB
Uh-huh.
5716.
Wow.
And what
So-
day of that month does Hanukkah start?
The 25th,
Oh, okay.
It was the
So
second day of
second day of
Hanukkah.
the second day of Hanukkah. You're born on the second day of Hanukkah.
There you go.
Second day of Hanukkah.
So every year when it's the second day of Hanukkah,
In
you'll
my
know that you'll know that it's your birthday.
I have this one aunt used to
Yeah,
figure out my grandfather's birthday every year, so
There
we
you go.
celebrate it on the right
there
day.
you go. There you go. So, well, I hope you learned something.
Yes,
We'll
very
meet
nice.
again next week. If you want to know more about the calendar, there are some resources on that.
Do you meet
Some
every
extra
Monday?
reading. We meet every Monday at 7:00, unless we're not meeting. But if you wait a second, I'll get your email address and I'll
Yes.
email you,
Yes.
add you to the list and I'll send it out. Bye-bye, guys.
Yes, bye-bye. I want